We will call this meeting at 7 p.m., the Fairview Planning Commission, June 13th, 2023, to order. Ms. Jones, if you will take roll, please.
Ms. Sinyard,
Present.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mr. Butler,
Present.
Mr. Calley,
Here.
Mr. Magner,
Here.
Ms. Williams, Mr. McDonald.
Here. Everyone will rise for the prayer and pledge. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather here today. Be with us as we consider what's before us and guide us to sound decisions through constructive discussion and debate. Give us patience and understanding throughout the process. In your name we pray. Amen. Move on to approval of the agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Johnson, Calley. Ms. Jones.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Calley,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye. Move on to citizen comments.
There's one tonight, Miss Leslie Street.
Name's Leslie Street. I'm at 1062 Highway 96 North. Looking at the master plan for the Groves property tonight, I just want to make sure that everyone remembers that we have a bunch of people that are going to be affected by this development, and that I think that we should, ask for greater buffers. I don't think there should be any water flow towards Bowie, and none towards the houses that are going to be right below this development. Also, I think it's absurd and a disgrace to have Miss Bowie's name on a subdivision, because that's exactly what she would not want. Thank you. In my opinion, that's exactly what she wouldn't want.
Is that all?
That is all.
Thank you. We'll move to the approval of the minutes from the May 16th, 2023 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Calley, Johnson. Ms. Jones.
Mr. Calley,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Same.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye. Motion passes 6-1. 601. Moving on to new business, item number 1, PC Resolution PC 20-23, rezoning 0 Chester Road rezoning 17.23 acres, map 042, parcel 142.00, current zoning RS40, single-family residential, proposed zoning RM8, multifamily residential, property owner Kathy Linda Oneta.
Move for approval.
Second.
Johnson, Schulist. We will open for discussion. Was there any, I'm sorry, Sid staff, go ahead.
PC Resolution 20-23, John Richard Patterson, the engineer representing the rezoning of 0 Chester Road with written approval by the rightful owner, Kathy Linda Oneida, is requesting that this property be rezoned from its current zoning of RS40, single-family residential, to a proposed zoning of RMA multifamily residential. The 6 parcels to the west, north, and south of this property are zoned CG Commercial General, and the parcels to the east are zoned RS40 single-family residential. The applicant is requesting RM8 multifamily residential zoning. The parcel is listed as legacy residential medium in the 2040 comp plan, with appropriate land uses listed as single-family residential with RS40 or RS20 zoning. The properties surrounding this parcel are listed as either town center or commercial corridor, which lists the appropriate land uses as multifamily residential, office, retail, restaurant, single-family attached residential, and single-family detached residential. The letter of intent from the applicant is the current zoning is RS40 Single Family Residential, and the applicant would like the opportunity to rezone the subject parcel to RM8 Multifamily Residential. Based on previous feedback, the Planning Commission had concern with the level of density allowed under RM20. Therefore, the developer is proposing a decrease to the RM8 to offset the noted concern. The proposed zoning appears to be appropriate based on the site's proximity to Fairview Boulevard and the future town center area identified in the Fairview Forward 2040 comp plan. The site is adjacent to commercial development to the west and a creek to the east, providing a natural buffer from the subject site to the adjacent single-family lots. RM8 makes for an appropriate transition from future town center down to the existing single-family lots. And that is the end of the staff report for PC Resolution 2023.
Thank you. If there is a representative for the applicant that would like to come forward, most likely, if there's anything you'd like to add, but there'll probably be questions as well.
Good evening. As Sarah mentioned, we are here with Elmington Capital Group, and we are back. We were here in April, and after addressing your concerns, we are coming back for a rezoning proposal of RM8 for this Chester Road site, and I'll let Ben take it from here.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for having us. I'm Ben Muskelly with Elmington Residential. We love this site. So when we came last time, we heard your concerns. We brought it back to our team. The residential team, which is the team that handles more townhomes and things of that nature with our group, looked at it and they fell in love with it as well. We love this site, one, because there's a natural buffer on this with the trees, with the floodplain from all four sides. So this is one that when you look at the aerial, you can clearly see there's a clearing in the middle. That's where most of the development will be located. We're lining up an entrance with the strip mall across Chester Road. And we're working with adjacent property owners to create an entrance on Fairview as well. We feel like this is an appropriate transition from the town center that's proposed in Fairview 2040 and from the commercial down to the residential, which is more of an established residential piece. With those buffer yards, there would not be any townhomes or structures within 200 feet of any of the adjacent property-like structures. With that, turn it over.
Yeah, I mean, I've met some of y'all. I'm Michael. But yeah, like you said, heard a lot of those criticisms, and this thing is going to have a pretty big impact on the city and the town center, and it's something that should be treated like delicately. We kind of maybe came a little too aggressive, and we heard Fairview and thought this would be more appropriate. This is not only impact y'all, but your kids and so on and so forth. So, and we see that. We definitely saw that with this support and this plan. But something we also thought about how this can help is there's going to be a lot going on right here. There's a Publix and there's shops and stores that will be coming, and these are residents who will be able to boost those businesses, use the post office, use the Publix, use your restaurants. I have a good friend who lives out here, and he works here, and he's from here, and he was trying to find a home for so long. And as many of you know, it's hard to find a home right now. He had to take his wife and his kid out to Murfreesboro. And so he commutes into Fairview every single day, and he doesn't want to leave Fairview. So I talked to him about this. Like, is this something that you would like? And he said yes. And he's like, I got friends who agree too. We would love something like this. So I got to talk to, I've been here for 2 years now. Y'all have all seen me a couple times. So I had the chance to meet with a lot of people in the community, and I hear that a lot. So, but yeah, the natural buffer is great. When you drive by, it's one of those properties where there's such a big tree density up front that you still feel that same feel. And a long drive back in before you get to the homes creates that same feel. So Chester Road's going to feel the same. It's not a big in your face right up on the road, but something that's going to feel the same and feel like the community.
How many units are you all planning? Have you gotten that far in your planning?
So if this was zoned to RM8, its landings 136 is what the zoning would allow. We are somewhere in that 100 to 120 range. We're not able to get it up to like 136. And that's very preliminary.
And these are looking like townhomes instead of apartments?
Yeah, we've looked at townhomes with attached garage, so park under garage. We've also looked at townhomes without garage with surface parking. So we've done townhomes all over the country. We're based here out of Nashville, but like we're really comfortable with townhomes, so.
So another question for you. According to the comprehensive plan, that's still legacy residential. How is the development going to try to capture the essence of Fairview with a legacy residential look? Or how would that be applied if we were to allow this change?
Yeah, we can do that architecturally. That's one thing we do with all of our developments, whether they're here in Nashville, they're in Texas, wherever we build them, we try to make them match the community that they're in. That's very important to us. We hold ownership of properties, so even if it's for sale, we still hold the HOA, we still hold the amenities. So we try to create quality products wherever we go. The other aspect of this is it is tucked so far back up in there. We want to increase the landscaping. We want to keep the tree buffer. To us, that's the biggest amenity to this site, is it's a natural site that kind of works for it. And the other aspect that we like about it is it does provide the ability to have that transition back into the commercial and the town center that would be adjacent to this. So we really feel this could be a cohesive development.
I know it's early. There had been another group that had come before us on this property a while back, and I believe they had an entrance and exit onto Boone Street, because there's a lot going on that road too, and I'm imagining that road will be repaired. Is that something you guys have considered, or is
We've considered it. The issue between the site and Boone Street is there is a stream. And the impacts on that stream are pretty significant because that stretch between the site and Boone it's a tight stretch. We've looked at that. We've been in talks with property owners on Fairview to look at creating a connection that way as well. We would be required a second access point, so we know that that's a concern.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from the Planning Commission? Hearing none. Ms. Jones, if we could call roll, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Schulist?
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard?
Aye.
Mr. Butler?
Nay.
Mr. Calley?
Nay.
Mr. Magner?
Nay.
Mr. McDonald?
Nay. Motion dies 3 yeses, 4 noes. New business item number 2, PC Resolution PC 21-23, final plat, Adams Preserve subdivision, 49 units on 7.52 acres, map 042, parcel 34.00, current zoning CG Commercial General, property owner Pulte Homes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve PC 2123.
Second.
Callie Johnson. Staff comments?
Staff report for PC 2123. Mr. Adam Sanders has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for final plat approval for the Adams Preserve Townhome Project. Site construction plans for Adams Preserve were approved by the Planning Commission on June 14th, 2022. They have since had a pre-con and begun building, and they're now ready to go vertical, which is what this final plat does. And that is all I have.
Thank you. If there's anybody representing the applicant that would like to join?
My name is Adam Sanders with SEC, the company that we're helping the developer with this project.
Is there anything you would like us to know or add, or open to questions?
Quite honestly, I'm not very familiar with this particular site, to be honest with you. I was my hand is before you in the drafting of it. That's pretty much it.
That's fine. We'll open it up to questions from the planning commission.
So I have a few, if you don't mind, please. Just curious that there's a pump station showing on the site plan that's within the TVA easement. Is there any issues, concerns with a utility serving the neighborhood being within the TVA easement? You know, what liability does the city take on if we were to approve something that might conflict with?
So TVA has to approve anything that goes in their easements. That's a separate approval through TVA. We have multiple people that file and get approved through us and then have to go through TVA. And they often have to make changes, so this is already, the infrastructure's already in on this site.
Okay.
This is just going vertical is what this allows.
Thanks, Sarah. And then my other question, on Lot 4, and you probably can't see it on the exhibit just because of the scale, but the 20-foot utility easement actually overlaps the buildable area, which would basically render that lot not usable, not developing. Is there, have you had a chance to double-check easements?
Which lot is that?
Lot 4. It's the fourth one from the far left, upper northeast corner on the plan. It doesn't overlap by much, but if that's the building area, then that could potentially compromise that landowner.
Apologize, I'm looking at Lot 4 as the group there, 1 through 4. We have the building setback in that area.
It's
I
not
believe-
much.
That utility easement is offset from the radius, and the radius just didn't connect an actual, it's circle. So when it offset, it just kept it as 2 straight lines, which is why you're seeing that kind of triangulation right there.
So would that
We
be?
can double check that.
Okay.
I can make sure that's absolutely correct.
I wouldn't
But
want that-
That's what it appears to be, just
see
an
what you're-
offset from
Yeah.
the right-of-way line.
Just not offsetting the radius.
Right, it doesn't look like it is. I've got it zoomed in on mine, and it just looks like 2 points, but I'll confirm that
All right.
before they file.
Thank you.
I would add that as a condition of approval if you're inclined to approve it. Body's, city engineers' approval of that lot or verification that the lot is buildable.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Do we need to add that to make an amendment to the motion?
Do you need to amend the motion? So we'll need 2 votes. Motion to amend, second, and then vote to amend it.
Since I raised the question, I will move to amend the original motion with the acceptance and verification of the staff.
Adding a condition for staff to verify that lot is in fact buildable.
Yes, sir. So adding a condition for the staff to verify that that lot is buildable.
Second.
Magner Johnson. No further discussion. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you
Oh,
vote
I'm
on the
sorry.
original motion.
Vote on the original motion. Amendment carries. Now we will vote. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard,
Aye.
Ms. Shoelist,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to new business item number 3, PC Resolution PC 22-23, final plat, Aiden Woods of Castleberry, Phase 3, 68 lots on 61.52 acres, map 046, parcels 16.00, 16.04, and 11.03. Current zoning, R20 Single Family Residential, property owners Brandon Robertson, A1 Home Builder, Inc.
Make a motion to approve PC 2223.
Second.
Callie Johnson. Staff comments?
Staff report PC 2223. Mr. Adam Sanders has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for final plat approval for the Aiden Woods of Castleberry subdivision Phase 3 project. The development contains 61.52 acres and is zoned R20 Single Family Residential and has 68 proposed single-family home lots. Site construction plans for Phase 3 of Aiden Woods was approved by the Planning Commission on October 12th, 2021. I have nothing else to add.
Thank you. We'll open it up to the Planning Commission. Hearing no comments?
Actually, I have
Oh.
a few. I was
Go
trying
ahead.
to be patient. Sorry. Could you just verify, I did not see on the set that the lots are actually minimum 20,000 square feet. Oftentimes, we will kind of get a chart that shows the individual lots and the areas allocated to each.
I think on this one, they
On-
put it on the individual, on the
It's-
plat itself. yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
I
Brandon.
believe each one of them are above the 20,000.
And it's pretty minor. I don't know that it matters, but on this first sheet,
The cover sheet.
the reference of Phase 3 on sheet 2 or 3 is mislabeled. I don't
Okay.
know that it has any bearing on our reference, but it's a
Okay.
pretty quick fix to find that, but it's a little confusing for the first 5 or 10 minutes of reviewing.
That will definitely be fixed.
I don't think that, Mr. Chairman, that requires an amendment, though, in my opinion.
I don't believe so. Mr. Carter, would you agree with that? Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Sinyard,
Aye.
Ms. Shoelist,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. New business item number 4.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
PC Resolution PC 2323, Site Development Plan, Phase 3 Electric, 2.07 acres, map 042, parcel 044.00, address 1874 Fairview Boulevard, current zoning, commercial general, property owner, Phase 3 Investments LLC.
Move for approval.
Second.
Johnson, Callie. Staff comments?
Staff report, PC 2323. Ingram Civil Engineering Group has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for site development plan approval of Phase 3 Electric. This is located off Highway 100, just north of Thompson's Kitchen. Its property is 2.07 acres and is currently zoned CG Commercial General. Letter of intent from the applicant is that the project scope includes the new construction of the 7,800 square foot building to be used as a mix of office and warehouse space for Phase 3 electrical. The project property has been reviewed by staff and meets the base zoning bulk and area requirements of the CG zoning. The applicant is proposing a mix of office and warehouse space for a total of 7,800 square feet. The material composition for all sides, exterior sides excluding glazing, is coal black metal paneling. This applicant is requesting a variance to the Design Review Manual, Section 2-104.11, which states that 70% brick material percentage is required for all sides of commercial buildings. The applicant is also requesting a variance for the Design Review Manual 2-104.14 for the use of painted metal siding, which is listed as a prohibited material in our Design Review Manual. The setbacks and development buffers are as follows. Front, rear, side are 30, 20, and 10. They're proposing ingress and egress to the project by means of one existing entrance off Highway 100. The applicant will make improvements to the entrance in accordance with the TDOT driveway entrance permit. The access drive has been shown to be expanded to 24 feet of asphalt extending from Highway 100 to the rear of the proposed structure. The existing gravel drive that the parcel to the north utilizes as a driveway will remain. The applicant was required to submit an access study and is working with TDOT on the entrance improvements. The improvement finalization will be required prior to a pre-construction meeting. Phase 3 electric as proposed follows under the warehouse and office use and general business zone with a total of 4,687 square feet of warehouse area and 2,873 square feet of office area. This equals 9 total required parking spaces, and the applicant provided 12 standard parking spaces and 1 accessible space. The applicant provided a landscaping plan that meets the requirements for interior parking lot area landscaping, nuisance screening, and perimeter landscaping. The south side has perimeter landscaping shown near the drive aisle as required by Design Review Manual 2-105.3. The north side perimeter buffer is satisfied with the existing tree line, which will not be changed. Any supplemental plantings required to form an adequate screen to the north side shall be added as needed. The conditions of approval included in your PC resolution would be the approval of the variances to the Design Review Manual and also that the TDOT highway entrance permit is required prior to the pre-construction meeting, which will hammer out all of the TDOT improvements prior to going to construction. That's all I have.
Thank you. If there's someone representing the applicant here that would like to join us today. Tonight.
Evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time here together tonight. My name is Sam Bohannon. I'm with Ingram Civil Engineering Group. I'm the civil engineer representing the project. And we've also got representation from the architecture firm and the owner as well. So be happy to answer any questions you have.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We'll open that up to the Planning Commission.
I have a question for staff. The last comment letter on IDT is from February, and it shows a long list of comments to be made. Did those get incorporated, and is there a more updated comment?
The only outstanding issues are shown as issues in IDT. Everything else has been completed or removed.
Okay.
Question, I think that the way I read in our guidelines, we have the option. I think technically it calls for a sidewalk from the public right-of-way up to the front entrance of the door. For this particular site, I'm not so certain personally that I think that that would be utilized, but it does state that if that option is taken, that there would still need to be a payment to the city sidewalk fund.
They don't actually have right-of-way on any public right-of-way. This is an access easement that they do not own, that they are improving for the
Okay.
surrounding parcels. They don't have any frontage on a public right-of-way.
Okay.
So that's why that requirement is not for this project.
Okay. And it
That
probably wouldn't
entrance
apply
actually takes
anyway
up
to-
the entire access drive, that 24 feet that
That's
they're
why I was going to say
expanding to.
there's no way we could get a
there's no-
6-foot
yeah.
sidewalk anyway.
And they don't own that frontage.
So the outstanding, I know it's been confusion with IDT because if people have a combined plan and don't submit it per the request and then they start separating documents, it's kind of hard to tell what you're approving because there are no architecturals in the last submittal at all. And the last architectural in version 2 had everything combined. So the outstanding comments are the sprinkler plan and the fire truck turnaround, correct?
Correct, yes. And the last application, I know IDT's kind of, y'all are seeing new things that you've never seen before. The last application is just for the outstanding comments that they have. They don't typically submit, when they first come in for applicant submittal 1, they have like 12 documents that they upload. But if we only have comments on the fire and life safety or the architectural, they start only submitting those from there on.
Right, but when they go to submit and they check off the list, only because I do this in a lot of other cities, it says, title your plans, job name underscore architectural. Title the next one, job name underscore site plan. And when they can submit them all combined and then start breaking them out, you can no longer tell what you're approving. When you start looking at this, if I approve this, I don't know what I've approved from submittal 1, 2, and 3, because there were a combination of plans, and I think I raised it with Micah a couple of times, so it is quite confusing to try to figure out what the outstanding comments are.
We usually do a full clean set as a post-approval under all of it, once after it comes through here, which is all of the comments completed, ready for pre-con, everything that has been added as a condition of approval, that all comes, and that's all under.
It's just hard for us to see what we are.
Yeah, then that can be changed for, as far as planning commission submittals go.
Because I know when I have to submit for work to Williamson County or anywhere else, it gets rejected if I don't do it correctly. I'd like to know more about the decision on the design and why we're asking for a variance.
As far as the building materials? Okay. Might have the architect come talk a little bit about that.
Hello, my name is Matt Edwards. I'm with ASD Sky, the architecture group, helping with this project. Pretty straightforward what the owner is trying to do here. It's a pre-engineered metal building using pre-engineered metal building components. The base of those components, in terms of exterior skin, is a pre-finished metal panel. Part of the inspiration for this look, and many of you may have seen it if you've driven between really here and Murfreesboro down 840, there is a business, I think it's right past kind of Eagleville, that area, that you can see off of the highway, that is a modern, clean-looking, black, simple building. Logo, a little bit of color in the graphic or accent. In this case, a canopy. Modern storefront with a black anodized finish. Really trying to downplay detail and articulation with materials, and like I said, create a modern box. I would be remiss to say that there are budget concerns with trying to skin the entire building or 70% of the building with masonry, brick. And given that the site, the location of the building relative to the street, in conjunction with a front landscape buffer that we are providing, we feel like this would be a not as visible structure off of Highway 100. Any questions?
I will say it looks much better than the building that was torn down, that was there.
And I would say it looks much better than the building in front of it.
And for those that don't know, the former city hall is where this site is. So that was the building I was speaking of. Could any of y'all speak to how many employees this will bring to Fairview?
I'll have the owner speak to that.
Good evening. It depends. We have a lot of subcontractors, in-house employees. Some were 50, 60 folks come to our office every day for work.
Thank you, sir.
We were just trying to get something. This isn't tin like goes on a barn roof. It's engineered. So it's got a different look than if you just think it's like, what is it? Dollar General or something like that. It's a total different material. It's engineered metal, and it's a really nice look. So hoping you guys will work with us on it. Any other questions?
I mean, personally, I think it's a nice looking building. I'm not so certain this is the correct context for that. I would kind of like to see at least some form of a transition for this building. I mean, we are pretty close to the Audubon neighborhood. It's at the, outskirts entrance to the city. So, again, there is definitely a time and place for this particular look. I'm not so certain if that is the right location, in my opinion. We've allowed a few projects recently to deviate, but at the same time, I think if we get too far away from our community, the Fairview community,
Which I live in.
I think we all do.
Been here for a while, so.
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty proud of it, and I think the city would be too, but we wouldn't be opposed to, maybe a black brick or something so high, but we're trying to get the sleeker look, and that's what we were
Yeah.
going for, so.
And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think I'm with you. I like it personally, but with what we've been tasked with and the conversations we've had about the design review manual, we've talked about, having a brick or stone bottom third or something and then siding above. I personally was a no vote on the one at the interstate that was more metal with the split face block bottom and brick because of the more modern look, just because that's not what I feel like as a planning commission member I've been tasked to do. We change our standards, and that's another.
Is there any additional discussion?
Of the board to add that as a condition, that it be bricked up to a certain point?
I think it would be helpful, really, for the owner to allow the board the chance to vote on amendment for some variation in the materials, because if nothing else, you don't lose time of having to go back and do a complete redesign. Perhaps that keeps some momentum to your project.
How does the applicant, if you could come up to the podium, if the board were to approve it or consider approval with a brick skirt that's black, how does the owner feel about that? They can vote on it as it is, but you may not get the approval you're looking for.
Excuse me, what was the question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me explain this to you. So in trying to find a good compromise of what you're after and what we think the community at least is trying to apply to the design standard,
Okay.
to save you time and probably money, there's the option where we can vote on an amendment that still requires some stone brick. And you could pick colors that are more contemporary as the look of your submission. If we don't do that, then there's the risk of, and I don't know, I'm not going to speak for the board, but
Right.
if it votes nay, then you have to go back and do almost a full resubmission and you lose time.
Right.
So the question is, how much appetite would you have for introducing some material on the front facade?
I just need to ask it, what's it gonna do for the design? Is it gonna affect the build? Like the slab, the footer, what's it gonna
And,
change? Are we gonna, is it be a
and
big?
architecturally, I'm probably going to start the amendment. I don't know that I'm going to ask for the entire facade. There's ways you can incorporate masonry stone within, certain portions of that elevation.
Like on that front, if it came up beneath the windowsill, like no further up onto the windows where it didn't interact with those windows.
Okay.
Not on the
Would that
warehouse
affect the
portion,
building?
but on that front entry.
So we're talking about a water table essentially. And are you saying just on the office portion or around the warehouse?
Yeah, I think it would look odd under the high windows
Yeah.
to do a water table on that side. I think if you picked a interior corner, not exterior corner to end it at.
Around the office part you're talking about, where, unless you guys see a problem
No,
with the
I'm not.
build, I don't see a problem with it.
Opposed to that, no.
Would something like like a Corian stone is what you're talking about, something like we do in our business type thing, or is that what we're talking
Brick or
about?
stone, I mean.
Anything,
the mason-
instead
I
of-
mean, I know it's kind of a conversation. There's a really cool kind of iridescent black dark brick that's a commercial brick that would go really neat with it, I think, that's
I was
really
just saying
square.
something that went on like this, that it wouldn't affect the foundation or anything on the build, that we'd have to redesign the whole build to allow for that to go in the metal to meet it, flush.
Yeah,
Unless you're talking about like a row lock or
No,
something that
there,
comes
there are
back.
cultured products that can be a surface applied, don't necessarily have a.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, I think we're after the aesthetic more than we are the function of the material.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Well, I'd like to move to make a motion to amend the original motion, whereas the board should consider allowing some architectural updates to the front-facing facade off of Fairview Boulevard within the office portion of the building. That would include portions of a masonry look product.
That's up to under the windows. I'd be as specific as.
Okay, yeah.
Very specific.
Uh,
How much are you expecting?
So we would allow up to the window sills of those front-facing facades.
Second.
Jones, if you'll call the roll on the amendment to the motion?
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Senyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schulis,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald,
Aye. Passes 7-0. We'll now call roll on the motion itself.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Ms. Senyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schulis,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to new business item number 5, PC Resolution PC 2423, Residential Site Development Plan, Bowie Meadows Subdivision, Phase 1, 43 lots on 25.34 acres, map 043, parcel 26.00, map 43E, parcel 6.00, current zoning R20 pod, property owner McGowan Family LP.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Johnson, Senyard. Staff report.
Staff report for PC 2423. Eric Olson of Anderson, Delk, Epps and Associates has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for residential site development plan approval of the Bowie Meadows subdivision Phase 1 project. This project will develop as the first phase of the approved Planned Overlay District Master Development Plan for the Groves property. The total property for the Bowie Meadows subdivision is 124.54 acres, and Phase 1 includes 43 home lots on 25.34 acres and matches the existing phasing lines and lots shown on the approved POD document. The property was rezoned to RS20 POD with ordinance 2020-29, which passed Board of Commissioners May 19th, 2022. The property is located adjacent to the city center development, which is located to the east, Cox Run subdivision to the north, and Bowie Nature Park to its south. Phase 1 will have access from existing Cox Run Drive and will have an access road connecting into the first phase of Phase 1 of the developing city center project. The project property has been reviewed by staff and meets the base zoning bulk and area requirements of the R20 Planned Overlay District Approved Master Development Plan. The setback and development buffers are as follows. Front, rear, and side are 25, 20, and 10. Development buffer requirements are set by the approved Master Development Plan with 25 feet landscape buffer adjacent to lots 1 through 5 to the west, 25-foot landscape buffer to the north adjacent to Cox Run subdivision, and 50-foot landscape buffer to the south adjacent to Bowie Nature Park. Anderson, Delk, Epps, and Associates of the Bowie Meadows subdivision Phase 1 project is proposing ingress-egress to the project by means of 3 access points, one from Cox Run Drive located in Cox Run subdivision, and 2 accesses which connect into the city center development. The roadway networks within the subdivision provide 50-foot right-of-way widths. They were required to submit a traffic impact study based on the requirements set in the subregs. The traffic impact study, which was completed by Reagan Smith and dated October 9, 2020, and was provided during the POD process, provided the following recommendations. They are listed in your packet. They're about a page long. There will be no improvements at this time for the current Phase 1 of the project. A hydrologic determination was completed for the proposed site, and TDEC concurred with the findings in the report. Plan sheet has been provided showing the location, dimension, and design of all roadways, entrances, sidewalks, mailbox delivery kiosks, access, and other pertinent surface items, and meet the requirements of each item. The calculations of natural features and proposed landscaping components are as follows: streetscape landscaping, 40-foot on center, transitional screen landscaping. They're shown along the perimeter. Significant tree areas being saved to the greatest extent possible near the boundary with Bowie Park and in the center of Phase 1. There are 2,067 caliber inches proposed for Phase 1. That is the end of my staff report.
Thank you. There's a representative for the applicant who'd like to come up.
Eric Olson with Anderson Del Caps. We agree with the conditions of approval. If there's any additional questions or anything I can help with, let me know.
Thank you. I'll open it to the board.
Can you speak of the stormwater detention for Phase 1, please?
We've got the road along the south boundary, and all the runoffs can be directed to the north, to that, to the ponds. So we'll have 2 water quality units treating the flow, so it's going to be taken through the pond to one single outfall. And we're going to have a live pool on that, so it's actually on your more frequent storm events, it's actually going to have real slow release rate over 24 to 48 hours, which will really kind of cut those, frequent storm events down.
And where does that release to, according
It's
to
the
this
southeast
diagram?
corner there. There's a, if they have a copy of the preliminary plat,
Yeah,
they can
looks
pull
like
up.
there's a little, like a creek. Is that,
Maybe go to the next page. Yeah, as you can see the large pond there at the top right of that. Everything's being directed to that pond with some water quality units. And then we'll have a single discharge point. And we kind of kept it off the boundary line. And it should have a velocity dissipating head wall as well to kind of help with flows.
and your rate of discharge is pretty minimal?
Yeah, we detained up to at least, I think, the 100, if not the 50, as required. I know the drainage to the northeast was kind of a concern during the master plan. We actually kind of redirected all that to the south to kind of keep it off those northern subdivisions, which, quite a little bit of piping, but we got it down there to where we're not really, discharging any adjacent properties other than that one outfall.
If you could, is there, if there is any water that will be leaving this site and going into the park, if there is any, if you could touch on that?
Yeah, that'll be that single outfall discharge to the south, and it all comes from that single pond.
And based on the studies, is there an increase to the amount of water that could
No,
occur?
we're making reductions. We actually probably over-detained it, to just be on the safe side, because I know that was a concern.
Is that due to the nature of the release from that pond over that period of time? It'll actually reduce the amount of flow that would.
Yeah, the peak discharge, it's actually going to be a lot, during the frequent storm events, it's going to be a lot lower. But then during the larger design storms, it's all going to be less than pre-developed. We kind of looked at it as far as forest cover, we took that into account as far as, what trees we're going to lose, new pavement and all that. So, we really kind of made sure, get that right.
Thank you. Ms. Toddy, is there any information, I don't know if you have it off the top of your head, but back when this was the last round of discussions, I believe we adjusted buffers and stuff quite a bit, right? I know you addressed what they currently are set at, but there were some changes that the applicant made that were requested by the city, if I remember right. Is that accurate? Can anyone speak to it?
It matched the last approved plan that we passed.
Yes. Yes, that was what was approved, is what we had shown up on the screen earlier. That is after the Board of Commissioners process, and all those conditions were on that top right section, listing what the requirements were, what the setbacks were, what the buffers were, and how much they would have to pay per lot to Bowie Nature Park, and all of that information was on that first page, and that was all approved back in that master development pod stage.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, so what is the schedule of the buffers? Is that something, once the developed lots are finished, you'll install the landscape buffers, the fences and things, or does that go in?
Yeah, I know we're preserving a good amount of trees there on the south property line and then inside, but then the landscape will probably be planted kind of, when homes are constructed and stuff is being stabilized, that's why it doesn't get torn up.
Okay. That's perfect.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none. Ms. Jones, if you will call roll, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Calley? Sorry, Ms. Senyard?
Aye.
Ms. Schulis?
Aye.
Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Mr. Calley?
Nay.
Mr. Magner?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye. Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you.
We will move on to planning staff comments.
There are none tonight.
Comments from the city manager?
Oh, yeah. You go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to introduce our new city planner, Steve Bourne. He's in the back. If you hadn't had a chance to meet him, I highly recommend. I'm excited. He's got 40 years' experience, and I think he's gonna help lead us in the right direction. And excited about him being here. Also hired Ethan Greer as kind of his planner in education mode. So we're also looking at, we've just hired also a building inspector, Tom Ponder. So we've hopefully by first week in July, we're gonna have a fully staffed planning department. But thank you for your keeping your patience with us, because it's just kind of hard to find these folks these days. So, but thank you for all your work, and we're excited to have a new staff, and just hope you get to meet him and give him your number, and he's always willing to talk to whoever. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Toddy, back to you for engineer report.
None tonight.
Okay. Mr. Carter.
Yes, the bylaws weren't on tonight's agenda, but I want to make sure that our new city planner has input in those, and so Mr. Doherty will provide those to Steve tomorrow or the next couple days. He'll look at them, and they'll be on the next agenda. And I believe this is Ms. Toddy's last meeting with this planning commission, and so I want to thank Ms. Toddy for doing a really good job during a really difficult time with very lean staff. She's managed it excellently, in my opinion, and made my job much easier than it otherwise would have been. So thank you, Sarah, and we'll miss you.
We will miss you, Sarah, and thank you so much.
Mr. Calley, we'll start down on your end.
Just thanks, Ms. Toddy. You did a good job.
Johnson.
Again, we'll extend that as well. Thank you very much. We didn't get to work together long, but thank you for what you've done.
Ms. Senyard.
Thanks, Sarah.
Wagner.
Just same comments.
Butler.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to Mr. Mike Anderson for his time and service on this planning commission. Thank you, Sarah, for your commitment and continued efforts, and we will miss you. And welcome to Mr. Bourne back there. We're excited to have you. Thank you, sir.
Shoe list.
I'm sorry.
Like all the others, Sarah, we will miss you. And I don't know who, since you are going to be leaving, I don't know who to ask this to. Maybe it would be appropriate for city staff, but I would like to learn more about how to use IDT. I think there's more efficient ways to use it than what I've been doing. If we could have a work session on maybe how to find things, what we should be looking for. So
Yeah, we can set up a training with the actual IDT people. They do that as a service for what we pay them. They can set that up, and I can get that set up before I go. So that can be maybe virtual with you all, if that would work, just to kind of go over processes, or I can put together a
yeah, I think,
pamphlet of sorts.
I think it would also be helpful to understand the city staff's way of how they use it as well.
Okay. Okay.
Unless it's changing with you leaving.
I don't think so. It shouldn't.
Good opportunity for our planning director, new planning director and the planner to hopefully have a common understanding with this board about how that works and the best way to use it.
Sure.
So that might be a really good opportunity.
Yeah, I had recently had discussions inquiring about that, if something along the lines with, now with all the staff changing over and we're filling some of these positions, maybe having and even open to the public, just so everybody can kind of get, I guess, educated or re-educated on just a process from start to finish of a project that is brought before the city, the steps that it goes through. I know there was talk of that months ago being put together, and I think with all the changes, it just kind of got lost. I think that might go a long way just for everybody to be involved in. Yeah, Mike Anderson, I'm going to echo what Brandon said. He will be missed. Sad to see him go. He always made for entertaining meetings. We'll miss him. And welcome, sir. Good to have you. Look forward to working with you in the future. Ms. Toddy, thank you as well. I think I don't think anyone in here needs to be reminded of how important it was to have you in the position over the last couple months. So thank you. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
So moved.